Why is
So
that?
my little Bella loves school. She's 6 years old, and all she can talk about is school. And in 2 years from now, she better still feel the same way, or I'll be going in there to find out just why, because that is criminal. And what you said, I've experienced. Because I used to go into the schools when I worked in my previous job, because I was the relationship manager with the schools. And what you just said sent such a bell going off in my head, because when I'd go into the classrooms of the younger grades, it's true, they were enthusiastic. By the time they got to middle school, all of a sudden you go into the classroom, the heads were on the tables, you ask them about school, and they were as disinterested as can be. So what you just said, there's an example of it. I saw it over and over again.
And I want to bring up something that you often hear in schools is that there are problems in the home. That is why the child is not performing. Respond to that one, because you hear that all the time. Well, if there wasn't the issues in that house, this child could perform better in school.
Well, let's stay there. Mm-hmm. Do you know anybody's house who doesn't have problems?
Thank you.
I mean, anybody, like anybody. Right. Your pastor, your imam, your rabbi, right? Do you know your teachers, your principals, your coaches? Do you know anybody who has a house who doesn't have problems? Anybody of any color, of any culture, of any socioeconomic level. I mean, because if you do, I would like to meet that family. Everybody's got something going on. Everybody, as in everybody, because there are people who live in the house, not robots, people. And the best relationship sometimes in a house is between the family pet and the family. We have to stop allowing people to make us feel like we're the problem. We are not the problem. We are not the problem. Are there people, parents, who have lost their ever-loving minds? Yes. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt. They're people. But Dr. King said in his final book, Where Do We Go From Here? Community of Chaos, he said that a school should be so good that you cannot tell who that child's parents are. So, if the purpose of education is to provide children with access to a quality education that changes their fate, then by God, why are we blaming the parents for what they didn't know? That would be like saying, the reason I can't teach your child Spanish is because you don't teach Spanish, because you don't speak Spanish. Well, then what am I paying you for, fool?
I hear that.
The school should be a safe place. The school should create an environment where children can heal, especially after this pandemic, but under normal circumstances, where they can learn and where they can thrive. And so it's not, I mean, things happen at home, but when they come to school, it should be a different environment.
But you know what? It rarely is, you know, and I want to speak also about this whole idea of the attack on Black masculinity. Now, how does that coincide with school, or is there a connection? Because I know that you've spoken about the attack on masculinity, and I think that is one heck of a topic right there.
It absolutely is, especially in the year or the 2 years of women. What we would typically prescribe as male behaviors are treated as if they are somehow toxic masculinity. So if you look, very often the boys that we would have typically referred to as boys being boys kind of behavior, all that behavior is not sexual. All that behavior is not dangerous. It is what boys often do, and people need to get over themselves and allow boys to develop in the same way that boys want to develop. If you give a group of boys a G.I. Joe, so to speak, an action figure, and you give girls a doll, a group of girls, let's say that these children are around 4, 5, or 6 years old, the girls will play together. They will put together a whole scenario around what this doll does and what she doesn't do and who her boyfriend is and whatever. There'll come a whole scenario there, right? Generally speaking. The boys will take the doll's clothes off to see if he's got a pee-pee. And then what they'll do is they'll throw it around like a ball. And then they'll beat each other with it. Then they'll take it apart. And then somebody will come in the room like, oh my God, what have you done? And then you, as his mother, about to get a phone call about how your child did something inappropriate in the school that was sexual and violent. And this boy is sitting here like, my instincts told me to do that. We were just roughhousing because that's what boys typically do. And that's okay. And I'm sick and tired of people making boys seem like there's something wrong with them for being boys. It doesn't mean that a boy has to go and do something to hurt a girl, but boys will roughhouse. Boys will, as my grandmother say, wrestle. And they'll fumble upstairs and they'll break things and they'll fight with each other. Not every boy, because we're talking about entire gender, but most boys will do that. And that's not a problem. And the fact that you as an educator don't have the capacity to code switch, to understand that what he's doing is just expressing himself. You're not trying to hurt anybody. You can tell them to stop, and they don't get to do that all the time. And they got to stop when it goes too far, and you don't want them to go too far. But you don't go around telling the girls, you can't play together. You can't coordinate this. You can't come up with stories. You can't find a way to tell the story about how Barbie became this princess and that. You don't tell them they can't do what it is that makes them feel like they're responding to what's going on inside them. So stop doing it to boys because it's wrong.
I remember, this is so triggering for me, because I remember when my son was in the 4th grade and they had these hobby horses, these stick horses, and he was playing with it. And that science teacher talked to the principal about it. I had to go down there, and I just couldn't believe that they would think that he was, I can't even go further with that. I couldn't believe that they would actually take a child that was coming from a quote unquote good home and still demonize his behavior.
Because he's black.
Yeah.
Because he's black.
It was painful to be a mother. I'm in public school with my kid. It was painful.
Let me tell you a story. My sons, when the youngest was in first grade and the oldest was in 3rd grade, they were all out in this at my school. They were out in the back, playing tug of war. They were just with a bunch of boys playing tug of war, pulling, dragging each other, and doing what they do. One of the mothers of one of the children said that it was a gang-style attack on her son.
God. Right.
Now, let me be clear. I'm the school's founder. That she sent her child to this school. But because she had privilege, or so she thought, she could take such an accusation and use it against children. She said they were like a gang. Second graders. Playing tug of war. There is an attack on Black boys and Latin boys that we have allowed to occur because we don't get in there and go down to the school and say, hey. And sure, again, I'm the first one to say, because it goes too far. Y'all need to stop before somebody gets mad. I got that. I'm there for that. What we're not about to do is to criminalize that behavior. And that's why so many Black mothers, especially single mothers, end up at the end of one of these really long conference tables where the table's filled with people with degrees and certifications and flanked on both sides and on the other side, and they're being identified as having special needs and behavior issues.
Yes.
And they don't really have an issue. Like, their issue is that they have testosterone.
Exactly.
And lots of
it. So what can be done to improve this? Because this has been going on for 30, this has been going on for 30 years.
About 300 years. What has to happen is we have to fight for the right to open more of our own schools. Mm-hmm. It's the only solution. And we've tried it the other way. We've tried, well, what happens if we just integrate in? And what if we get a critical number of those? Well, what happens is when we get a critical number of people of color who go to a school, all white people leave. So then it just becomes a Black school. And then they treat you just like Black kids. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much money you have. If you go to even the wealthy white schools, you will find that by and large, the achievement gap still exists, that Black kids still in those schools are there. So we have to fight for the opportunity to create more of our own schools. And in New York City, that's what we do with charter schools. There's a group of us, we call ourselves Black, Latin, and Asian Charter Collaborative. And these are Black, Latin, and Asian founded schools. We start our own schools in our own community for our own community. And we don't have to ask people whether or not we can teach Black history in September. We don't have to ask people goofy questions like that. We teach what we want to teach the way we want to teach it.
And your Capital Preparatory School is that a high school? What's the age group that you're?
So in both Harlem and in the Bronx, we are 6 to 12. So we'd love for people to go to wearecapitalprep.org, wearecapitalprep.org to apply. Applications are open now. We'd love to have access to your family. We'd love to have the opportunity to educate your family.
You know, Dr. Steve, I got to have you on more because there's many more things I wanted to speak about today. I really wanted to unpack. I think your voice needs to be heard. You were killing me softly all through this thing. Like I said, I was getting triggered because I understand what you're talking about because I experienced it with my own son. Now he's doing very well, but it took a lot to get him.
There's no Black mother. There's no Black mother of a son who hasn't found herself with her head in her hands on her way down to the school, wondering what did he do now? Like, he's wrong again? Is he wrong all the time? Because I want to laugh with y'all, but is he ever right?
And I said that to one. I said, listen, I want him out of here. I said, because as far as I'm concerned, none of what you're saying is positive. I want out.
I'll say this as we close. For boys to become productive men, Black boys in particular, to become productive men, the trauma that we have to endure through systems that are supposed to be there to support us cannot be measured. It's immeasurable. It's immeasurable. And I say to all the mothers out there who have sons, keep on keeping on. Find other sisters out there. Find the right schools for your child. Fight for your children. But recognize when you come down there and you lay flames to the school, all you're going to do is hurt your child in the end. It doesn't do it. If you feel like you got to go that far, find another school. It's just not for you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. We hope to see you again. And thank you for the work that you are doing. We need you.
Thank you.
And Phyllis, thank you. And we'll see you next time on Brooklyn Savvy.